tonight, sharing waters and changing lives. And this truly was a life-changing experience for me, and one that was somewhat unexpected as well. So for several reasons, it changed my life. I've loved the water and had a special connection with the ocean since I was just a little girl. That's me at the age of 2 years old over there on the left-hand side. My mom said, she would open the van door. We were living in Florida at the time, and I would just go running straight to the water, just to get there, to come to a screeching halt and just stare at the water. She said that she didn't know whether it was normal or not, but she just let me do it. So okay. At about the age of 8 years old, I saw a presentation done by a gentleman named Stephen Arrington, and he was a chief diver and expedition leader for the Cousteau Society. And after that, it was all sharks, everything. I love sharks. Mom, if ever I die when I grow up, I want to get eaten by a great white shark. I mean, this was, this is a little bit concerning for my mother, of course, as you can imagine. Calling her as an adult saying, Mom, guess what? I think I'm going to go down to South Africa and work with great white sharks. She was a little hesitant about it, to say the least. So that's where my love of sharks started, and I developed from there. Got certified as an open water diver when I was 12 years old, and started in that. And life happens. Life happens in unexpected ways, and you guys can probably imagine or relate that it doesn't always work out as we think it's going to or want it to. But it was quite a few years actually since I got open water certified that I made it back to the water. I came over to Kauai and started working on boats. I'd gone to college. Long story short, I changed my mind a couple times, ended up with a lot of debt, no degree. But I, also a relatable thing these days. But I ended up finding a job in Kauai that, in fact, ended up being an answer, an amazing one, a blessing, truly. And I work on boats, and I have the opportunity to spread the word about ocean conservation. And I get to show people the underwater world that have never seen it. They see it for the first time snorkeling. It's amazing how many people who, that I find or come across that have never seen a fish or been able to look at these things underwater. It's truly one of the most rewarding things I think I've ever done in my life. The other thing, so in college, I started off wanting to do nursing. And the second thing, I just don't change my mind. I want to do marine biology. That's how all the debt, no degree ended up happening. But working on these boats, it turns out I get to still promote ocean conservation and take care of sick people. Everybody, a lot of people get sick on these boats. And it is like my heaven. It's asked for my heaven. I can have 30 people sick, and I'm running around with what we call loa bags. And I'm just in my paradise, there's dolphins jumping in the background, ocean, that's perfect. I wouldn't have it any other way. So I was on my way to work one morning when I saw a post about a post on social media website, Instagram, on a webpage called Shark Angels that I follow, of women shark conservationists, and it was a picture of a great white, so of course I clicked on it, just to see what it was about. But this time it wasn't the caption, it wasn't the picture that caught my attention, it was the caption. And this caption said, accepting interns now, no experience necessary, White Shark Africa. And I just lost it. I was like, this is my chance. I've got no degree, but they don't require any experience. This is it. I've got to do it, I don't even remember the drive to work. I was so excited. I knew exactly what I was doing when I got home, and I was going to email them and make something happen. And so I did, in fact. I ended up messaging them several emails, in fact, later to come and find out. I was actually ended up being highly embarrassed about my aggressiveness because the program manager at the time was gone at a conference, a Sharks Raise and Skate conference, and here I was thinking I had not made the cut for some reason. So I was emailing them with pictures, holding signs like I'm ready and stuff. So when he finally got back to me, he was like, I'm sorry, I've been absent. I was like, of course. Well, I'm the one. Pick me. So I was off. I was so excited, and in fact, they ended up counter-offering me, coming back at me with a counter-offer that instead of coming down for a 1-month internship like I originally applied for, they offered me to come down for 6 months and run the program that I had originally applied for. probably because of my over-aggressiveness. So maybe it was good in some way. But I was so excited. You have no idea. These were the images that were going through my head. This was what I was daydreaming about. I mean, this was me, shark wrangler. I was going down to South Africa to work with great whites, And this is actually a picture that my loving and supporting brother actually photoshopped for me before my departure. But this is actually a few images that were captured of my first time seeing a great white shark, and I lost it. I was crying, I was in tears, could not hold it together. The researcher for White Shark Africa, Kaiwi, who I became very close with, was kind enough to photograph me, my first experience. That's Captain Ron up there in the left-hand corner, pointing out the first shark that came up to the boat. And somehow I managed actually filming myself while crying, and came out with a really nice video of me crying, of course, but it's still really emotional for me to watch it. But some of the crew members that I worked with out there on the boats, and of course it was all smiles once they told me, to get in the cage. So we did all kinds of things during this internship. It was very interactive, and we did research, and we did tagging projects, and we worked with equipment. We used lasers to measure the lengths of the white sharks, and we studied their behaviors. We did tagging projects and tagged all kinds of species like hammerheads, bronze whalers. It's really nutrient rich down there, so it provides a really amazing ecosystem down there. And we even did outside activities too. I jumped off the highest bungee bridge in the world. I mean, I was checking things off of a list that I never even knew existed. I mean, this was awesome. So it was a really dynamic atmosphere, but I think that the most important and the most impactful part of all this to me was changing people's perception about this animal. And there is absolutely nothing else in the world I would rather do than talk to people and explain, give these animals a voice and explain exactly what's going on with these animals. This right here is, what has the greatest impact on how people view sharks. I mean, come on, who didn't see Jaws? I mean, everybody loved it. Look, I've still got my original VHS Jaws tape, 1970 right there, fully intact, and it still works. Yes, I still do have a VHS. But this was very impactful on how people saw sharks, okay? But what is the difference between this right here and this? Not much. There's a shark coming up out of the water right next to a boat. Here's a shark coming up out of the water. There's somebody in the cage. But this is what people are seeing. And how is that different to this? If you don't have any knowledge behind why these sharks are acting the way they do. And that was the key importance in all of this, is to have things explained. These are some of the photos I was able to get on my GoPro. I like to sit on the very back of the boat, motor mount, no protection or anything with my GoPro down there. It's my favorite spot. They're really highly developed. They have all the senses that we do: touch, taste, smell, feel. And then on top of that, they actually have a couple more, and sight. And I mean, do you guys see the blue in their eyes? Isn't that awesome? You think of sharks and we think of this black, ominous, eye. It's like, just kind of a deep pit of despair. But in fact, their eyes are actually blue. And even in that top one up there, you can still see it. But when you're up close and personal with these sharks, you can see that. It gives them a lot of depth, a lot of personality. And they also have these little dots here. So the other two sensory receptors they have on top of the other 5 is called the ampulla lorenzini, which are these little black dots here on the snout. And those are basically electroreceptors, pick up on electrical impulses, so they can feel things like heartbeats and stuff. And then on top of that as well, they have a lateral line, which actually goes down the body of the shark. And so they can pick up and detect movement, horizontal, vertical, all that stuff. So they're really highly developed, but people just don't know this. And so to have their behaviors explained really was the best way. It was just amazing. We even did surveys for an amount of time on the perceptions people had on sharks before and after their experience, before my conservation talk in the office, cage diving company, and after the whole entire experience in the cage and all that. And there was not a single person that came in to that experience walking out with the same perception of sharks. And they always came in nervous, shaking at the knees. Sometimes we'd have to help people over the side just so that they wouldn't fall into the water and actually make it into the cage. They were so nervous, But it was just amazing, bringing light onto the fact that we're giving these sharks a reason, to act the way that they do. And we used smell to excite the senses, some fish heads to create splashing and to create noise, to bring them in closer for viewing purposes. And we were very adamant about making sure that we keep things from a safe distance from the shark. But they're really smart, and as much as conservationally, the goal is not to feed any wild animal. They are so smart. Sometimes they do outwit you. It's amazing to watch a shark, use different tactics and change their tactics if unsuccessful in feeding. So those are just a few of the things, but the people see is the pictures of the sharks biting the cage and stuff like that. And what they're doing, in fact, is mouthing. It's not because they wanted us, because they want our human flesh. And for some reason, we always think that everything's always about us. I don't know, us humans, we're really good at that. But if they have something to follow and they smell something, so if they see and smell food, and we're trying to bring this shark in closer for viewing, and it bumps into the cage and stuff, it's not trying to get at you because you're a human being. If that was the case, I wouldn't have been in South Africa. I would have been out of a job, and I wouldn't have to do anything. All they'd have to do is put people in the cage, lower the cage over, and voila, the sharks would come flocking, right? So my favorite cartoon, if none of you have seen that actually, is here we have an elegant creature hanging out in the ocean, and next to it is the most dangerous animal in the world, and it's the human in the shark cage. I like that one. But just people explaining this, explaining this to people and giving them an understanding of why these sharks act the way that they do, completely changed their perceptions on these animals. And it was just an amazing and beautiful thing to see. And also, the sharks are an out of sight, out of mind thing. This is a beautiful thing here, to come together with people who are connected and understand the importance of waters and the animals in them. It's important to let people know, like, hey, well, out of sight, out of mind, who cares about sharks? Why should we care about sharks? To tell people that they are a keystone predator of the ocean, and, give them an example of something they can understand. Like, if you've ever had a fish tank at home, what happens when one fish gets sick? They all get sick. And this is the shark's job in the oceans, is to feed on the weak and the diseased fish, and it keeps populations healthy and strong, while the fish below them and stuff. And so this brings understanding. The more understanding people have, the more connected they feel to these animals. These are. I apologize for the graphic images, but this is a reality that's happening. And it's estimated on the high end right now that 273 million sharks per year are being taken out of our oceans. And as people who are reliant on our oceans for our very own survival, this will ultimately mean, the end of our survival as well if this continues to happen. It's a very sad thing. These products are used for all kinds of things. Yeah.
So are these sharks here being used for food?
Sharks are consumed. They can come in various forms. Even in South Africa, I learned actually shortly after arriving there that shark was prominently used in making what they call fish and chips. It's disguised as different names: whitefish, flakefish, rock salmon, and used in several countries in fish and chips. And I for one, was very disturbed by this, the fact that you can be receiving and eating a product which is in fact toxic to your body. It contains high levels of mercury and neurotoxins in it. It's extremely dangerous to consume, in fact. And the fact that you can be served this without knowing is very alarming to me, very upsetting, which also, really, boosted my want to spread this knowledge to others so that they know as well. It does also go back into an ancient Chinese tradition too as well, shark fin soup. It's thought to bring health benefits, vitality, and it's also a status symbol of power. So if you're seen eating a bowl of this soup, it means that you have money and that you're somebody of important status, which it's hard to break sometimes, cultural things. But in light of this and the fact that it does have to do directly with our own survival or survival of the oceans, more specifically, it's a really important issue that needs to be faced. So I use the example like the foot binding, which was also a Chinese tradition. They don't do that anymore either because they came to realize and understand that it was a cultural practice, but not necessarily one that ended up being humane. So I'll move on from there. Let's lighten the mood a little bit to follow that up. But I also ended up meeting Esther, such as Billy mentioned, and I've never met a more influential and positive, outgoing and just absolutely filled with ambition person on this topic of ocean conservation. And she really had a great effect on me. And so this is Finn over here. Finn is the hand puppet shark, and Finn is on a mission to spread awareness on how to save sharks. And this was a way she figured out how to reach people without people having to step up to the activist platform. We realize not all of us have the time or the ability to stop our lives, and go out and root for the sharks or whatever. But with Finn, and the motto is "I hugged a shark and I liked it," and keep Finn alive. So it's catchy too, and so we take pictures. And during my time down there, this was at the SIAB, South Aquatic Institute or the South African Institute of Aquatic Biology, and we did something called SciComm, and we were able to reach out to hundreds of kids. And not only are we doing conservation efforts for shark, but also raising things on plastic pollution awareness as well. And in order to take these pictures, these kids had to pledge to reduce their plastic use and to say no to shark products. So it's a wonderful way, even for adults. There's a lot of famous people too that have posed with these posters, and Finn the puppet. And in fact, I'm going to announce tonight that I'm starting my own Hawaii chapter, and so this is going to now be my puppet that I'm going to be using to start my campaign over here, in hopes that I can use it for educational platforms and stuff in schools and stuff. So meet Mana. These are whale sharks, and whale sharks is now, if you don't know, have been put on the endangered species list. So it's really good timing for this, to start all of this. So yeah, it was wonderful working beside her, and yes, like they said, we ended up going to this community meeting about sharks, and sharing waters. It's before airplanes, before all of this, it's the recognition that it has been from day one the waters that have connected us from continent to continent, and it's the thing that we also rely on. We rely on it for our very own survival, and to be able to meet up. And what are the odds that I meet people from over here, halfway across the world, almost down to latitude and longitude, really, from Hawaii? At the same time I'm there. To see people hopping out of the car with wearing these, Hawaii brands that I recognize, and I just looked over and I was like, where are you guys from, we're here on the voyage on Hokulea, and, we've come over, we're on a leg, but, from Hawaii, and I was like, wow, how cool is as that. And there were so many things that aligned in this trip. It was just amazing, very, very special. So this is us, and yeah, we got to hang out and share stories and talk about stories and connect us. And this is the most important thing that we need to remember, is that it's these waters that do connect us. And we, as people who are involved and connected with these waters, we have a really special responsibility to spread, this awareness and this knowledge to those people who are not directly connected, because that is a majority of people. They're not directly connected with the oceans, and they're not surrounded like we are here. And so it's a very, very, very important responsibility that we have to share this with others. And I'm just so thankful to be here with you guys tonight. And it's been, an ohana created by the Connecting Waters. So, thank you.